So 50% of Americans at this point can no longer afford rent. That's a great sign. That's a great sign that our country is doing well. Let's talk about it. There has never been a time in this country that it's been more of a scam than it is right now. I'm going to tell you that. We have turned the basic human need for shelter into a derivative. We have turned your front door into a line item for some guy who works at a private equity firm whose idea of the American dream is just becoming an overlord. The hundreds of different houses where families can barely afford to pay their rents, and he can just kind of press down on them, right? They're his serfs. Pay me now or I'll throw you into the streets. Like I said in the other video, everyone's talking about the GDP. Everyone's talking about how great the economy is doing, but it's an entire charade. We talk about the tariffs, right? The tariffs have had so much money, but 55% of the tariffs are being paid for by the American people. So the government is just harvesting money from the people like it's the new national crop.
Americans are just learning that they made the biggest mistake. And the mistake that they made didn't just ruin them. It's now handing them. Understand that every decision that they decided to make is now affecting them. It is now 1 year, but the things that white America has experienced, generally Americans have experienced, because these are like some of the decisions that they made. And they made thinking that it's gonna help them. But now it's even making their life worse. Let's talk about the recent problem that has been happening. That is the cost of living. When you look at the cost of living is dissected into so many parts. Health, food, housing. Those are like generally what we term as basic need, or at least what economic scholars call them as basic needs. Imagine a person waking up and voting against his own basic needs. White folks voted against their own basic needs. And you understand that all these stages came to happen, and now the last stage is like, you are not supposed to be living in your house. Why? Because you are not able to pay for your rent. And it means that people are getting cars on loans and changing the cars into their houses. Get to understand that that is happening. But why is this happening? It is happening because people can no longer afford rent. Brothers and sisters, I invite you to watch this video by Large Man Abroad. All credits goes to him because he's the creator of this video. But now, listen to him carefully, and then I'll be back with my critical view in regards to this, and then we'll have a discussion. Remember, I'm your host and presenter, HTech Stories, and if you're watching me for the first time, I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership. I really get to what I can offer you. But until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back.
The American people's lives don't matter anymore. You are just a nutrient to the spreadsheet of growth. So recent data from the 2025 State of the Nation's Housing Report just dropped. Let me tell you what, it's beautiful. Miserable report of sadness in America. Over 50% of the people in America right now, over 50% of families can't afford to rent the home that they're standing in right now. That's over 23 million families here in America cannot afford to pay the rent that they're currently paying. And this is one of the reasons why you see household debt is at the highest that it's ever been, continuing to climb. And it's lunacy and madness. At the same time, we see people not correcting any kind of their behaviors, not adjusting their spending patterns. That's why you're seeing records being broken again and again and again when it comes to holiday spending. And the rest of the year, the spending is made up for by the top 5% of the country who are actually buying everything. The bottom 20% of the country is essentially, they're flatlined when it comes to consumer spending. They ain't spending shit because they don't have anything. If it's over 50% of families that can't afford their rent, you know what that means? That means that the middle class can't afford to live. The middle class, by definition, should be the safe space where, hey, you're making it, right? You're making it. Life is good. You have everything kind of taken care of. As long as you work, you're fine. But that's not the case. And that's why the middle class is dead. We have the wealthy class, then we have the poors, the working class, right? The working poor. You are either wealthy in this country or you are part of the working poor. It doesn't matter if you're making six figures. It doesn't matter what your conditions really are. 50%, that's a massive number, and that's a massive problem. That's 23 million families, like I said, that are cost burdened, which is a very Ivy League, very clean, very nice way of saying that their backs are about to be broken by the kind of debt and payments that they have to make every month. That means that 50% of households are one pop tire or one random root canal away from being homeless, essentially, not being able to pay their rent. And there's no national rent forgiveness program that is desperately needed. You want to correct things? Like I said, chopping away the social safety net in the middle of a heightened economic crisis and cost of living crisis isn't a way to fix the economy, right? The normalization of the term K-shaped recovery should be criminal, because a K-shaped recovery is not healthy. That is not a good thing. That K-shape, that's not 50% are on this side and 50% are down here. No, that's 1% are up here, 99% are down here. That is a massive problem. And the fact that people just say, well, it's K-shaped recovery, we're working towards the right direction. You literally cannot work towards the right direction when you have a divergence of equity of such grand proportion that 50% of the country right now can't afford rent. That's one of the great reasons I say this thing is over. The American dream's over. Listen, when the American dream gets replaced by a landlord who uses AI to find out just how much blood he can squeeze out from you so you can still afford to be bled out next month, it's a problem. We've created a culture where ownership in this country includes an aspect where you have to stand on somebody else's neck so you can get up. But like I said, who's doing this really, right? Who's benefiting? Who's causing all this nightmare when it comes to rent? Is it mom and pop rentals? No. Listen, in my industry, I've talked to a lot of investment property owners, right? And many of them understand if no one's paying the rent, they're going to get their properties foreclosed on, because most people who have investment properties don't own them outright, right? They have mortgages they have to pay. They have to make sure that they can get people in those homes so that they can pay those bills, because most investment property owners, they're riding a fine line just like everyone else. They're just being a little proactive about their sleaziness. The big problem is the private equity firms, the property management groups. These are the problems. These are the reasons why your rent's getting so high. It's the same people who they're hoping for a crash now, right? The Blackstones, the Progress Residentials. Listen, they're the people that in 2008, they didn't see it as a financial crisis. They saw it as a clearance sale. And they are praying for that to happen now. Normal people aren't buying houses. And like I said, they're priced out of it. So that means that, we're essentially just having giant renter communities, entire subdivisions that are built just for renting. In the second quarter of 2025, 33% of all single family homes were bought by investors, not by families. That is, of course, a problem. But when the average age of the first-time home buyer is in their 40s, and most of the assets and homes in this country are owned by people who are 65 and up, there's really no path of ownership anymore for the younger generation, or those who are supposed to support this country. There's no incentive for Americans to keep working other than just keeping themselves fed. That's 1 out of 3 houses that are being bought up by investors just to be rented back by people who can barely afford to pay rent. And in many cases, rents cost just as much or higher than mortgages should. But with inflated prices and rates as high as they are, that's just where it's at. You can talk about lowering home prices, but that's not going to happen. Trump came out in an interview the other day saying that he doesn't want home prices to go down. He's saying, well, a lot of people took advantage of the pandemic and bought a lot of properties, and that's where most of their wealth is. Now, if we hurt that, we're going to hurt a lot of people who took advantage of that time. Yeah, that's a good thing. Take advantage of people who are opportunists, who are hurting the rest of the country. You want to talk about being American first? Actually be America first. Being America first means the American people. Actually support them. Make sure that they have food. Make sure that they can pay their rent, pay their mortgage, actually be able to pursue some kind of ownership in this country and not just have it set up so 33% of all homes end up in the pockets of private equity firms and investors. Families need homes. People need homes. But no, forget about that. GDP is doing great. We are exactly where we need to be in this economy if you're rich. Because what these people do is they buy these homes and they put in ugly gray vinyl flooring. They give it a nice veneer, but at the same time, it's still filled with asbestos. It still has black mold that can come back at any time now, but they're going to jack up the rent 40%. And because they own enough homes in the area and they've inflated the prices, that means the prices of all the homes in the neighboring area are also going to go up, which means that those rents are also going to rise, which means as those values go up, these companies and individuals who own these investment properties can continue to take equity out of their homes, passing that new mortgage that they have, that new price that's elevated, onto the renter. Just a continuous cycle of those who have ownership of assets continuously juicing the renters. You really want to solve this problem, make it so private equity cannot touch single family homes. Right? That's such an easy fix. Give them 5 years to liquidate their assets, to sell them off, right? Really increase the inventory. We can talk about immigrants all day, but the fact is, if we're not building enough, and there's not enough homes on the market, and if you have entire subdivisions that are now being built specifically to rent, not to own, then the American first American dream will have no legs to stand on. People ask me on this channel all the time what my problem with landlords is, what my problem with people having a bunch of different homes that they can rent out. My problem with it is greed. That's my problem with most things in America. It simply comes down to greed. And I don't believe that it should be a constant competition to step over people's bodies just to make another dollar. Last year, 85% of all landlords raised their rent. And in 2026, they're expecting rents to go up all over the country 6% because the market supports it. The market supports it. The market supports servitude. That's what the market actually supports. We're moving towards a direction in America right now where the guy who works at an Amazon warehouse has to pay rent to a private equity firm who bought the house from another guy who works at the Amazon warehouse. So it's a closed loop, right? It's a closed loop. Once you're inside the poverty loop, you're meant to be trapped inside that loop. There's not meant to be a way for you to escape. The only way to really escape is just think that you don't need a home to live in and go live in your car, but that's becoming illegal. Van life is being criminalized. Living in your RV in many places where the jobs actually are is becoming illegal now. So your options are work to death or go to jail, right? Reduce things down to the most simplest level. That's in reality in America. That's the choices that you have. Work until you die, or die in jail, or die on the streets. That's it. So yeah, fuck the landlords. Fuck the landlords who call themselves small business owners who in reality just live in Scottsdale, Arizona. They have 6 townhouses that they haven't fixed anything since the Bush administration. Like, you're not a business owner, right? You're just a toll collector on the road to survival. You're just a parasite with a LinkedIn profile. But that's where we are in this country right now, ladies and gentlemen. We have millions of people who are spending more than 50% of their income just to pay their rent. You know what you do when you spend 50% on rent? You don't have kids. You don't have families. You don't start businesses. You just exist. You're a battery in the real estate market. Eventually, we're all just going to work in a big, giant WeWork dormitory. We'll have community kitchens and shared sleeping pods. And the thing is, this will be lauded. They're going to say it's sustainable. This kind of downsizing is healthy for the economy. But those who are making the most profit from the economy aren't expected to downsize at all. They will live grander lives than anyone has ever experienced on this planet. In fact, that's already what they're doing. So when they start talking about building things in space, listen, that's not for normal average person's benefits. These people don't want to be by you. They don't want to be by people who rent. They don't want to breathe the same air as a cashier at a grocery store. They don't want to be around you. You are filth. You are scum. So you have to realize these people are not your friends. These people are not your representatives. These people are your enemies. They want to see you in the dorms. They want you to have the community kitchens. They want you to have the shared space while they privatized luxury, where they've monetized freedom even more so than they have now. But that's life in the con capital of the world right now. And honestly, I wish you all the best of luck, because as this increases and as some corporate landlords decides that asset 402 needs to pay another 300-month security payment, but that asset is actually your car, because at some point cars have gotten so expensive that that's what private equity is going to get into. Even the cars on the side of the road will get eviction notices taped to the windows. But hey, go buy Bitcoin. Go get them, Tiger. Get out there and work. Listen, there's an escape. Get out of the country. Go somewhere else. Find another place to be and find your happiness. That's the amazing thing to me, is the more I talk about escape from this country, in a place that, like, the only actual change that you can have in this country isn't going to be done peacefully, right? These people aren't going to let go of power just because there's a mob at the gates. They don't care if there's a mob at the gates because they have machine guns on the gates, you know? So it's like, at some point, like I said, the only option to actually get freedom and pursue opportunity in your life at some point is just going to be to escape the country. That's why I said, get ahead of the curve, you know? Find your place now. Look into work visa. If you have transferable skills, people say, well, I don't know anything about being a digital nomad. You don't need to be a digital nomad. Do you have a trade? Are you blue collar? You know, there's other countries you can go to. A lot of countries need skilled specialists, and they have special visas for those people, right? I know Australia is a pretty obvious one. I know there's a lot of Australians who watch this video, and yeah, listen, Australia is better than America. You know, you guys are happier. Is things expensive there? Is housing expensive there? Yeah, it's a problem. But at least you guys got koalas and shit, and that makes up for something, I guess. You got nicer beaches. But that's all we've got on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still here at this point, like and subscribe. Think about becoming a member. Had to kind of blow off some steam on this one, I think, because I've been there. I see rents going up everywhere. You know, I know people who are struggling. I know people who are leaving the country because they can't afford it anymore, right? Like, it's something that we're all feeling right now. Like I said, if 50% of the people can't afford the rent that they're currently paying, you are not alone, right? You are not doing anything wrong. Your desperation isn't because of you. If 50% of 1 in every 2 people are having this problem, then it's normal. And that's not a good thing. And it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to direct your rage in a way that's appropriate to do so, or to get in front of a camera and have a nice little ranty rant about how sick society has gotten, because the sickness is terminal at this point, and it's all right to talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you, and we hope you have a good one. Take care.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing dope. So, let's have a talk, let's have a chat in regards to this. People are giving up. People are giving up their lives. People are down. People are tired. People really don't know that we are like turning to a new year. People don't know how things will unravel. People don't know how things are, you know, coming to change and what's going to happen, what's the plan, what's in for them in the future. Because like what 2025 showed people, it really showed people a lot of dust. But one thing that I know for sure, that if they didn't use this aspect to learn from the mistakes that they made, because remember, the United States is why it is right now because of the decisions, because of the greedy decisions that some people made, because of racism that people decided to choose. And that's what made them like be where they are right now. This is not a rocket science. You probably know this. And what's important is that they have used these as learning. And as some people say, let this be as an example to those people who are planning to vote because a person is promising that their culture will be better than any other culture. And the same person who is giving them all these lies is a person who is also the product of a system. So everything is going worse. And like, I'm really interested in what people said in this video. Now, somebody said that everything is only going to get horrifically worse in 2026. I probably don't know. But yeah, economic professors, scholars have come out and have said that people should brace themselves. And this is not like fear mongering or anything, but this is something that has been said. Like, people should brace themselves for what is coming. I honestly don't know how 2026 will be, but we're just hoping for a better America, right? Somebody's saying that you are not allowed to be homeless either. It's horrifying. Yeah, this is true. You are not allowed to be homeless because when you are found homeless, you are risking going to jail. Understand that the same system that is making it difficult for you to find a home or to be in a house doesn't want you to be homeless. Because when people go and divert into car living, it now becomes a problem. Because now they're not able to pay for these houses, for the houses that the top 1% own, the elites. And you understand how the game is rigged. But all this comes down to the decision that you all decided to choose. So somebody says that this statistic honestly doesn't surprise me anymore. Rent has gone up way faster than wages. And every year it feels like people are just expecting to adjust without any real solution being offered. Like, it's crazy, right? People are going through it. People are feeling it. So somebody is saying that the game is over when all the money is in the hands of the few. Yeah, that's how they want you to operate. They don't want money to get into your hands. That's why they want you to work, pay for the rent, go to work, pay for the rent, wake up in the morning, go to work, pay for the rent, repeat the same routine. You are being kept in a constant loop. The constant loop is to make you not to have something of your own. Now you trading your time to pay a house. You trading your life to live in a house that you don't even spend the rest of the day inside it. And that's how it's crazy. And that's how it's getting so much crazy. And you all need to understand that. Somebody say that it's called a K-shaped economy because it's about to kill over. Somebody say that the Great Depression 2.0, and it's not a lie. It's true. Somebody say that my friend, I've had a lot of people last year mocked homeless, people really bad online. And now some of them are going homeless themselves. I call that karma. I said something and I'll say it again. You see, when you do something thinking that you are going to be harming somebody else, but it ends up coming to you, we call it karma. The same case with those people that decided to vote for Mr. Donald Trump. They thought that it's not going to be affecting them. But yes, it did affect them. In fact, it's affecting them big time. And they're feeling it. They're going through it. They now understand the struggles that people go through. They now feel, they're now in the same shoes with those people that used to warn them not to do some things that they did. So somebody's saying that having children is not a good idea right now. Daycare expense alone is equal to a house payment. And having both parents working just to make ends meet is not fair for the child. Yeah, those are the devastating consequences that this comes with. Because people are living in a disillusioned country where social life is being suppressed. Social life involves people having kids and being parents and living life as normal, and it doesn't have to be expensive. But when you see like all this pressure getting into some things which are biological, like people having family, and now you understand that indeed the life is so disillusioned. So somebody say that I don't understand how anyone who doesn't own their own home could consider themselves middle class. Wake up. And it's crazy. Okay, well, this might be debatable. Think of this. When you wake up in the morning working for a person, like when you have to wake up in the morning work for a person, it means that we are all working class Americans. Not working class Americans, but we are all working class, including me, right? Understand that everything that you see is happening by design, is to keep you on a loop, is to keep on grinding for people who are somewhere on the beach, who are somewhere don't ever want to think about even have to invest their coin in everything, in anything. Their investment is sure because they kept you on the loop. That's what they ever wanted. Constant loop of working. You worked, your parents worked, you are working, your kids will work, the kids of your kids will work, the kids of the kids of the kids of your kids of your kids will work. It has been a constant loop. But for them, they never want, or they will never have to lift a hand to make money because they're making it easy. And that's how the elites are working out with people. And it's crazy because we all chose that. Somebody say that I just became homeless and now living in my car, jobless, far from home. No family, no friends to rely on. Everyone has their own problem. Just got approved for food stamp, but it's not enough. Just hoping to one day get my passport and leave the country for good. There was a time that I talked about leaving the country. Some people probably thought that America is still a great, the United States is still as a great opportunity for them. But look, see, I think it's time you open your eyes and see that there is nothing for you in the United States. I respect the fact that you were born in the United States. I respect that you've lived your life all in the United States, but the game is already rigged. It is not the same like it used to be. That's one thing you need to understand. So when you understand that the game is rigged, you need to find a place that a game is still fair, a place that a game has not been rigged. And where can you find a place where like the game has not been rigged? Probably you could try find life in other places, in other countries. You can start over. But also know, at the same time, living in the United States is not easy. So you need to put some structural plans that can make it work for you. Understand that that's all you need to do. And yeah, it's possible. I mean, you can start over. It's possible. I've seen people start over in different countries where they didn't have hope, but they are pressing. Somebody say that I noticed that if you don't learn things through personal experience, you truly don't understand it. And all these rich or well-off people are so out of touch because they've never had to go without food, sleep outside in the cold, and wonder how they are going to pay the bills. It's a problem when these people are in power because they lack empathy. They lack empathy and only care about how it affects their pockets. America is just so greedy, competitive, and selfish that I hope it all burns to the ground at this point. Nothing here worth saving. Yeah, it's all happening. Somebody also is saying that I know many people are grown children work full-time and come back home because the rent is so high. If they pay rent to live alone, they cannot afford their car insurance and have any money to go out on dates. If they get a roommate, that can be a bad idea. If roommates get laid off or move out suddenly or turn out to be too incompatible, Some families have big houses, so more privacy to go back home, and they can save for the future. They cannot afford to marry or to buy a house or even one for parent to stay home to raise a child until kindergarten starts. Daycare is crazy high. It's going back to when most families lived together with different generations under one roof. I had my first apartment at 17 in New York City, Brooklyn. Those days are gone, and they ain't coming back. Trust me. So, somebody's also saying that Americans are running out of options. What happened to the 40-hour week and good wages that my grandparents fought for when unions were strong and fought for workers' right? Because I'm a huge believer that stood for people have to have downtime to spend time with families. It's crazy. Y'all, it's so much crazy. Please let me know what you think and feel about this. I'm your host and presenter, Tech Stories, but until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute. See ya.